October 27, 1944, Vosges Mountains, France, night. Staff Sergeant James Teal of the 371st Infantry Regiment, 92nd Infantry Division, crouches in a foxhole surrounded by German positions. His platoon, 32 men when the operation began 3 days ago, is down to 19. They're surrounded, out of radio contact, low on ammunition. No idea if anyone knows they're here. 3 days earlier, Teal's company received orders. Advance through the Vosges Mountains, engage German positions, create diversion while the 442nd Regimental Combat Team rescues the Lost Battalion, a battalion from the 141st Infantry Regiment, cut off and surrounded by Germans. The mission briefing was clear. Create pressure on German forces east of the Lost Battalion position. Draw German attention and resources away from the 442nd's rescue operation. Extraction will be coordinated once the Lost Battalion is secured. Translation: we need you to attack German positions to distract them. We'll pull you out when the main mission is complete. Teal's company attacked as ordered. They engaged German forces, created the diversion, drew enemy attention. The 442nd successfully rescued the Lost Battalion, fighting through German lines, suffering devastating casualties, but bringing the surrounded battalion out. Mission accomplished. Teal's company waited for extraction orders. The orders never came. For 3 days, Teal's company has been surrounded by German forces. They've been fighting to survive, holding positions against German probing attacks, rationing ammunition, treating wounded with depleted medical supplies. They've tried radio contact repeatedly. Dead air. Either their radio is damaged or command has stopped listening. Either way, they're alone. On the third night, Teal realizes the truth. Command isn't coming for them. The 92nd Infantry Division's black soldiers were used as expendable diversion. The Lost Battalion, white soldiers, got rescued by the 442nd. The black soldiers who created the diversion got abandoned. Teal makes a decision. If command won't extract them, they'll extract themselves. At dawn, the survivors will break through German positions and fight their way back to American lines. It's a desperate plan with low survival probability, but staying surrounded guarantees death or capture. Moving gives them a chance. At 0600 hours, October 28th, 19 soldiers begin moving through German-held forest, navigating by compass, avoiding enemy patrols, fighting when discovery is unavoidable. They move for 18 hours, covering 12 miles through enemy territory. At 0 hours, October 29th, 96 hours after being left behind, they reach American lines. 19 survivors from a 32-man platoon. 13 men lost, 7 killed, 6 captured. Teal reports to battalion headquarters. He expects debriefing, concern about casualties, questions about the operation. He gets blamed for losing radio contact and lectured about following proper extraction procedures. The institutional narrative: Teal's unit failed to maintain communications and got lost. The casualties were their fault. The truth: command used black soldiers as expendable diversion, abandoned them behind enemy lines, then blamed them for getting abandoned. This is the Vosges Mountains operation, October 1944, when the Army sacrificed black soldiers to save white soldiers, then erased it from the record. If you want military history about soldiers abandoned by their own command, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The Vosges operation proves black units were used as expendable assets. October 24th, 1944. The 141st Infantry Regiment, 36th Infantry Division, advances through the Vosges Mountains in eastern France. The 1st Battalion pushes too far forward, pursuing retreating German forces. German troops counterattack, cutting off the battalion from the rest of the regiment. Approximately 275 soldiers are surrounded, cut off from supplies, reinforcements, and communication. This is the Lost Battalion. Though they're not lost, they know exactly where they are. They're surrounded by German forces and cannot break out. The situation becomes critical within 24 hours. The battalion has limited ammunition, medical supplies, and food. German forces attack periodically, inflicting casualties. The surrounded soldiers need relief immediately. 6th Corps Commander Major General Edward Brooks orders a rescue operation. The 442nd Regimental Combat Team, the all-Japanese-American unit, receives the mission. Break through German lines, reach the Lost Battalion, and extract them. The 442nd is chosen because they're proven effective in mountain warfare. They've fought through difficult terrain in Italy with success. They're the best available unit for this desperate mission. But the 442nd alone isn't enough. The German positions are too strong. A direct assault will face concentrated enemy fire. The operation needs additional pressure on German forces, diversionary attacks that spread German defenses thin. 6th Corps looks for units to create this diversion. They select elements of the 92nd Infantry Division, including the 371st Infantry Regiment. The 92nd is a segregated black division. They've been in Italy, but recently transferred to France. They're available, they're infantry, and, critically, they're expendable in ways white units are not. The operation plan. 442nd attacks from the west toward the Lost Battalion. 92nd elements attack from the east, engaging German positions. German forces must split attention between two threats. 442nd breaks through while Germans are divided. Lost Battalion is extracted. All forces withdraw to American lines. The plan is explicit about extraction. Upon successful extraction of 141st Infantry elements, all units will disengage and withdraw to designated rally points for evacuation. This promise proves hollow. October 27, 1944. The 371st Infantry Regiment receives attack orders. Companies from the regiment will advance east of the Lost Battalion position, engage German defenders, create pressure forcing Germans to divert forces away from the 442nd's rescue approach. Staff Sergeant James Teal's platoon is part of this operation. They're assigned to push through German positions, engage enemy forces, and maintain pressure for 24 to 48 hours until the Lost Battalion is extracted. The company commander briefs the operation. This is a critical mission. The Lost Battalion needs relief. The 442nd is conducting the main rescue effort. Our job is to keep German forces occupied so they can't concentrate against the 442nd. Command will coordinate our extraction once the rescue is complete. The soldiers understand they're a diversion. Their role is drawing enemy fire while someone else accomplishes the primary mission. But they trust the promise of extraction. Command wouldn't leave them surrounded after using them as bait. That trust is misplaced. The company attacks at 0800 hours. They advance through dense forest against fortified German positions. The fighting is intense. Machine guns firing from concealed positions, German infantry counterattacking, artillery falling on American formations. Thiel's platoon takes casualties immediately. 2 soldiers are killed in the first hour. 5 more are wounded. They continue advancing. Mission is to engage Germans, draw their attention, create pressure. By midday, the company has pushed 2 miles into German-held territory. They've engaged multiple enemy positions, inflicted casualties, absolutely drawn German attention. Mission accomplished. But they're also cut off. German forces have moved behind them, surrounding their position. The company is isolated, separated from the rest of the regiment, surrounded by enemies, in the same situation as the Lost Battalion they're supposed to be helping rescue. The company commander radios battalion. "Surrounded by enemy forces. Request artillery support and extraction orders." No response. They try repeatedly. Dead air. This is the story of soldiers who trusted their command to bring them home, then got abandoned behind enemy lines. If you want military history about institutional betrayal of black soldiers, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The Vosges operation was erased from official histories because it exposed command's racism. Throughout October 27th and 28th, the company fights defensively. German forces probe their positions, testing for weaknesses. The Americans hold. Barely. Ammunition runs low. Medical supplies are exhausted. Casualties mount. They keep trying radio contact. Nothing. Either their radio is damaged or headquarters isn't responding. Either way, they're on their own. Meanwhile, the 442nd successfully rescues the Lost Battalion. On October 30th, after 5 days of brutal fighting and over 800 casualties, the 442nd breaks through German lines and extracts the surrounded soldiers. News of the rescue spreads. The Lost Battalion is saved. The 442nd's heroic sacrifice is celebrated. Mission accomplished. But what about the 92nd's soldiers still surrounded east of the battlefield? What about the diversion force that made the rescue possible? Command forgets about them. October 28, 1944. 3rd day surrounded. Thiel's company is down to approximately 60 soldiers from 130 who began the operation. Dead, wounded, missing. They're surrounded, out of contact, running out of everything except determination to survive. The company commander makes a decision. They're not waiting for rescue that isn't coming. They'll break out on their own. The plan is desperate. Move at night. Navigate by compass toward American lines, avoid German positions when possible, fight through when necessary. It's high risk, but staying guarantees capture or death. They move out at 2200 hours, 10 p.m. 60 soldiers, carrying wounded, low on ammunition, navigating through enemy-controlled forest in darkness. The first hours are tense but successful. They avoid German patrols, move quietly through the forest, make progress toward American lines. At 0300 hours, they encounter a German position, a squad-sized patrol blocking their route. Combat is unavoidable. The Americans attack, eliminating the German patrol in a brief, violent firefight. But the noise attracts attention. German forces in the area are alerted. The breakout becomes a running fight. German patrols pursue them. The Americans move as fast as possible while carrying wounded, stopping to fight when pursued too closely, then moving again. By dawn, October 29th, they've covered 8 miles. They're exhausted, down to minimal ammunition, but still moving. Teal's platoon, originally 32 men, is at 19. 7 killed during the 3 days surrounded, 6 captured during the breakout. They reach American lines at 0600 hours, 4 days after the operation began, 96 hours after being cut off. The soldiers expect relief, medical care, debriefing about what happened. Instead, they get blamed. The battalion commander questions why they lost radio contact. He criticizes their failure to maintain communications. He suggests they should have held position and waited for extraction rather than breaking out on their own. This response is gaslighting. Command abandoned them, then blames them for being abandoned. The official after-action report describes the operation as partially successful. The Lost Battalion was rescued, but elements of 371st Infantry Regiment became isolated due to communication failures and required self-extraction. Translation: we abandoned them behind enemy lines, but we're blaming them for losing radio contact. The Vosges Mountains operation becomes a public relations success for the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. The rescue of the Lost Battalion is celebrated widely. News coverage emphasizes the 442nd's heroism. Japanese-American soldiers suffering devastating casualties to save white American soldiers. It's a powerful narrative about loyalty, sacrifice, and American unity. The 92nd Infantry Division's role is minimized or omitted entirely. Official accounts mention supporting operations, but don't detail that black soldiers were abandoned behind enemy lines. Why the cover-up? Because the truth exposes command decisions that are indefensible. Command used black soldiers as expendable diversion. Command abandoned them when the primary mission succeeded. Command blamed the abandoned soldiers for getting abandoned. Command prioritized white soldiers' lives over black soldiers' lives explicitly. These facts contradict the heroic narrative of the Lost Battalion rescue. Acknowledging them means admitting the Army operated on racist calculus. Some soldiers matter more than others based on race. So the 92nd's role is erased. The soldiers who created the diversion, who drew German forces away from the 442nd's approach, who made the rescue possible through their sacrifice, they disappear from the official story. Staff Sergeant Teal and other survivors know what happened. They discuss it among themselves but don't publicize it. Who would believe black soldiers claiming they were abandoned by their own command? Who would care? The institutional narrative becomes history. The Lost Battalion rescue is remembered as the 442nd's heroic achievement. The 92nd's contribution and abandonment are forgotten. Decades later, historians researching the 92nd Infantry Division discover references to the Vosges operation. They find after-action reports mentioning supporting operations and elements isolated during Lost Battalion rescue effort. They investigate further, finding individual soldiers' accounts, casualty records, and timeline evidence. The pattern becomes clear. Black soldiers were used as diversion, abandoned behind enemy lines, then blamed for the consequences. In the 1990s to 2000s, some accounts of the Lost Battalion rescue begin mentioning the 92nd's role, though usually briefly, as supporting detail rather than central narrative. The full story, the abandonment, the self-extraction, the institutional betrayal, remains largely unknown outside military history specialists and 92nd Division veterans communities. James Teal survives the war. He returns to the United States in 1945, musters out of the Army, and returns to civilian life. He uses GI Bill benefits to attend college, builds a successful career, raises a family. He occasionally tells the Vosges Mountains story to family and friends. He describes being abandoned behind enemy lines, fighting through German positions to survive, then being blamed for getting abandoned. Most listeners assume he's exaggerating. Surely the Army wouldn't deliberately abandon soldiers behind enemy lines. Surely command wouldn't blame soldiers for being abandoned. Teal must be misremembering or overstating what happened. But Teal's account is accurate, corroborated by other survivors, supported by documentary evidence, and consistent with broader patterns of how the Army treated black soldiers as expendable assets. Teal dies in 1989 at age 67. His story dies with him. One of thousands of black veterans whose experiences of institutional racism and betrayal are dismissed, forgotten, or never believed. The Lost Battalion rescue remains celebrated. The 442nd sacrifice is honored, appropriately, as they suffered devastating casualties, accomplishing a desperate mission. But the 92nd Infantry Division's soldiers, who made that mission possible through their own sacrifice, who were abandoned behind enemy lines as expendable diversion, remained forgotten, their betrayal unacknowledged by the institution that used and abandoned them.